Rock history remembers the legends, but what about the outliers? The bands who pushed boundaries, lit up clubs, and recorded masterpieces, only to get buried by bad timing, label politics, or pure bad luck. From the fuzz-drenched chaos of the 60s to the mind-bending prog of the 70s and the raw underground fire of the 80s, these bands never topped the charts, but they rewrote the rules. Number 30, The Seeds. Before punk, before grunge, there was Sky Saxon growling, pushing too hard into a mic like he was trying to start a fight. The Seeds captured the spirit of teenage frustration with simple chords, raw energy, and psychedelic vibes. Their 1966 self-titled debut,
You're pushing too hard every night. What all I want is to just be free. Live my
Number 29, The Misunderstood. They sounded like nothing else. West Coast kids who went to London and created mind-melting psych rock with feedback-drenched guitars and anti-war fury. Still, singles like Children of the Sun hint at what could have been. Their music was dangerous, visionary, and far ahead of the times. A band cut down before the explosion. Number 28, The Creation. Guitar violence, art school chaos, and proto-punk energy made The Creation stand out in the UK mod scene. Eddie Phillips played his guitar with a violin bow years before Jimmy Page. Tracks like Making Time and Painter Man were blistering, innovative, and totally out of step with the top 40.
Always singing the same old song, same old song.
Number 27, The Nazz. Todd Rundgren's first band, The Nazz, was all hooks and heartbreak. Their debut single, Hello It's Me,
It's me.
would later become a solo hit, but the original version is lo-fi, vulnerable, and emotionally devastating. Blending British invasion flair with American songwriting muscle, they had real potential, but creative clashes and lack of support cut things short. The seeds of Rundgren's brilliance were already blooming. Number 26, The Monks. How do 5 American soldiers stationed in Germany end up inventing proto-punk? The Monks did it by throwing away every rulebook they knew. In 1966, they dropped Black Monk Time, a chaotic burst of garage rock noise powered by distorted banjo, pounding drums, and aggressive vocals that called out war, conformity, and blind authority. Their sound was raw, their look was radical, and their message was loud. Number 25, The Action. They had sharp suits, harmonies to rival the Beach Boys and George Martin producing. But despite the credentials, The Action never found major success. Their early singles were soul-infused mod anthems, but by the late 60s they drifted into gorgeous, reflective psychedelia. The compilation Rolled Gold shows a band in transition from hit hopefuls to something far more artistic, forgotten by the public, revered by musicians. Number 24, The Pretty Things. They started with loud, dirty R&B that made even the Stones look tame, but by 1968, The Pretty Things evolved into something far more ambitious. SF Sorrow became the first true rock opera, a dark, surreal concept album filled with loss, war, and madness. Thanks to poor promotion and no American release at first. They took risks the bigger bands wouldn't, but never got the spotlight they deserved. Number 23, Love. Love were kings of the Sunset Strip, but frontman Arthur Lee refused to chase mainstream trends.
Yeah, said it's alright.
That mixed folk rock, baroque pop, and existential dread. Critics loved it, but it barely sold. Internal struggles and Lee's refusal to tour killed their momentum.
And I will be alone again today.
Today, that album sits high on greatest of all-time lists. Back then, it was barely noticed. Number 22, 13th Floor Elevators. They weren't just playing psychedelic rock, they were living it. This Texas band released the psychedelic sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators in 1966, the first album to even use the word psychedelic in its title. Their swirling reverb, electric jug rhythms, and Erickson's howling vocals were thrilling and terrifying. Legal troubles and mental health issues cut their journey short, but their legend only grew stronger. Number 21, The United States of America. Led by UCLA composer Joseph Byrd, this band was one of the most forward-thinking acts of the decade. Fused avant-garde composition, tape loops, and early synths with psychedelic pop and political commentary. No guitars, just layered violins, distorted bass, and the hypnotic voice of Dorothy Moskowitz. Their only album sold poorly, but today it's a cult favorite among collectors and sonic experimentalists. It was too strange for the time, and exactly what the future needed. That wraps up the 60s, a decade where these bands were planting seeds that wouldn't bloom until years later. Psychedelic pioneers, garage rock rebels, and proto-punk prophets who were just too early for their own good. But tell me, how many of these 60s deep cuts were completely new to you? Drop a comment and let me know which one blew your mind. Now buckle up, because we're diving into the 70s, where things get heavier, weirder, and way more experimental. Number 20, Puba. If you've never heard of Puba, don't worry, you're about to fix that. With a name straight out of Saturday morning cartoons and riffs carved out of granite, they dropped Let Me In 1972, and somehow the world didn't notice. But we should have. Tracks like Steamroller hit like a punch to the gut, loud, fuzzy, and glorious. This isn't just proto-metal, it's raw, unruly freedom pressed into wax. A permanent place in our underground Hall of Fame. Number 19, Bebop Deluxe. This is what happens when glam rock meets a philosophy degree, led by the criminally underrated Bill Nelson. Bebop Deluxe never quite fit anywhere, and that's exactly why they mattered. Their 1976 track Ships in the Night is the kind of song that pulls you in on the first listen. Razor-sharp guitar fills, jazzy piano vamps, and a chorus that floats just above Earth's orbit. It's part art rock, part sci-fi cabaret, all style. Radio didn't know what shelf to put them on. Too brainy for pop, too fun for prog. But for those of us tuned into the strange and the sublime, Bebop Deluxe gave us something cosmic to hold on to. Number 18, The Groundhogs. This isn't background music, it's a warning shot, led by the feral genius of Tony McPhee. The Groundhogs took British blues, wired it to a fuzz pedal, and pointed it straight at the system. Tracks like Eccentric Man weren't just heavy, they were haunted. Dirty riffs, screaming solos, lyrics that stared down madness and corruption without flinching. I don't believe I am. Me an eccentric man. Long before it was trending, they didn't ask for fame. They asked uncomfortable questions and made us feel every single one through 6 strings and scorched tubes. Number 17, Sir Lord Baltimore. Play Pride once, and you'll wonder how the world missed this. Sir Lord Baltimore's 1971 debut, Kingdom Come, didn't just flirt with heaviness, it bulldozed the door down. With thunderous drumming, screaming vocals, and a guitar tone that sounded like it had been forged in a blast furnace, Pride was chaos in motion. It was also one of the first records to be called heavy metal in print. They had the volume, they had the venom, and they had the songs to rival Savage. But while others got airplay, Sir Lord Baltimore got buried. What they left behind wasn't fame. It was a blueprint for every doom, stoner, and sludge band that followed. Number 16, Gnidrolog. Even in a scene that embraced weird, Gnidrolog was way out there, mixing jazz horns, cello, and medieval flourishes. Their 1972 album, Lady Lake, was haunting, complex, and uncomfortably emotional. Prog fans didn't know what to do with it. The radio ignored it, but listeners today hear echoes of their sound in post-rock, avant-garde, and even metal. A true anomaly that aged better than anyone expected. Number 15, Leafhound. They had one album, a tiny label, and an earth-shaking groove. Growers of Mushroom by Leafhound is a raw, swaggering beast of a record that blends bluesy vocals with proto-stoner guitar riffs. Only to become one of the most sought-after vinyl rarities in rock. They were here and gone, but the echo still rumbles. Number 14, Trapeze.
Now, Lone Star Cap Company, ladies and gentlemen.
Before Glenn Hughes joined Deep Purple, he fronted Trapeze, a funk-infused power trio from the English Midlands. Their 1970 album Medusa married heavy riffs to soulful vocals in a way that felt both raw and refined. They earned the respect of peers, but never broke beyond cult status. Still, any band that inspired future metal gods deserves another spin. Number 13, Gentle Giant. These guys made prog look like child's play. Gentle Giant didn't just write songs, they constructed labyrinths and classical precision. Their albums like Octopus and In a Glass House were dizzyingly complex but weirdly groovy, too cerebral for mainstream ears, but absolute gold for those who craved something smarter. Number 12. Van der Graaf Generator. If Pink Floyd took you to space, Van der Graaf Generator dragged you into the abyss. Led by Peter Hamill's theatrical wails and dark existential lyrics, their music was chaotic, brooding, and at times terrifying. Albums like Pawn Hearts didn't flirt with madness, they embraced it. No hit singles, no compromises, just pure emotional combustion. Number 11. Captain Beyond. Formed by ex-members of Deep Purple and Iron Butterfly, Captain Beyond should have been an instant success. Instead, they became cult legends. Their 1972 self-titled debut fused hard rock with cosmic transitions, progressive structures, and space-age lyricism. It was like a rock opera without the opera, and it flowed like one continuous trip. Criminally overlooked, eternally adored, and there you have it, the 70s underground. 10 bands that pushed rock into uncharted territory while the mainstream wasn't paying attention. From cosmic prog to proto-metal thunder, these artists were building the foundation for everything that came after. So tell me, did any of these 70s gems surprise you? Maybe you've been spinning Gentle Giant vinyl for years, or just discovered the crushing power of Sir Lord Baltimore. I want to hear your stories in the comments. Now get ready, because the 80s are coming, and things are about to get loud, fast, and dangerously underground. Number 10. Killdozer. Sludge, sarcasm, and zero interest in radio hits. Killdozer weren't here to make friends. Delivered thundering guitars and satirical lyrics that skewered small-town America. Their sound was too slow for punk, too grimy for metal, and way too weird for MTV. But they influenced Nirvana, the Melvins, and a generation of noisy misfits. Number 9. The Bolshoi. Brooding yet melodic, the Bolshoi emerged from the UK goth scene with something darker than pop, but more accessible than post-punk. Their 1986 debut Friends offered haunting hooks and cinematic textures. But constant lineup changes and label trouble kept them from mainstream liftoff. They were never quite goth enough for the goths or pop enough for radio, trapped in limbo, but unforgettable. Number 8. Holy Moses. When Sabina Klassen screamed, you listened, as one of the first women to front a thrash metal band. Holy Moses crushed gender norms with breakneck speed and brutal vocals. Their 1986 debut, Queen of Siam, was fast, ferocious, and wildly influential in the German metal scene. They remained underground heroes. Number 7. Flipper. Flipper didn't follow the punk playbook, they set it on fire. While hardcore bands sped things up, Flipper slowed everything to a crawl. Their songs were heavy, sludgy, and repetitive, drenched in distortion and built on bass lines that throbbed more than they grooved. Generic Flipper, 1982, was a noisy wall of feedback and nihilism that confused critics and emptied rooms. But to bands like Nirvana and Mudhoney, they were prophets. The mainstream didn't know what to do with them. The underground, they saw the future. Number 6. The Sneetches. Long before indie pop became a thing, the Sneetches were doing it better, mixing jangly guitars with bittersweet harmonies.
And if you think I'm crazy,
Lights Out with the Sneetches was a hidden gem, but their refusal to chase trends kept them far from the spotlight. They wrote perfect songs, just not for the charts. Number 5. Mission of Burma. Angular, cerebral, and defiantly loud, Mission of Burma made post-punk feel dangerous again. Their 1981 EP Signals, Calls and Marches, and the 1982 album V's blended noise, melody, and political edge with tape loops and shouted mantras. Hearing damage from their intense shows forced them into early retirement, but their influence never faded. Just ask REM or Sonic Youth. Number 4. Sacrilege. British crust punk meets thrash metal fury. Sacrilege began as a punk band, but evolved into something heavier and darker by their 1987 album, Within the Prophecy. Their politically charged lyrics and bleak soundscapes were too brutal for the mainstream, but they helped lay the foundation for crossover thrash and extreme metal. They weren't polished, but they were prophetic. Number 3. Agent Orange. Surf rock and skate punk had a violent collision, and Agent Orange was born. Their 1981 debut, Living in Darkness, paired reverb-drenched guitars with hardcore speed, creating anthems like Bloodstains that echoed in skate parks for decades. But being too punk for rock radio and too melodic for hardcore purists meant they always floated in between scenes. Number 2, Vardis. Imagine AC/DC jamming with Motorhead, barefoot. Vardis brought boogie-infused chaos to the new wave of British heavy metal with their 1980 live album 100 Miles Per Hour. Their glam roots and energetic sound made them stand out, but they never got the industry push they needed. While Iron Maiden rose to fame, Vardis remained a cult favorite, sweaty, wild, and unforgettable. Number 1, Wipers. Before grunge had a name, Greg Sage was already doing it better. The Wipers' 1980 debut, Is This Real?, combined punk urgency with introspective lyrics and gloomy guitar textures. Sage avoided fame on purpose. He didn't tour often, refused interviews, and didn't play the industry game. But his influence on Nirvana, Melvins, and countless alt-rock bands is undeniable. He didn't want the spotlight. He lit it anyway. That's 30 bands that rewrote rock history from the shadows. From 60s garage punk to 70s prog madness to 80s underground fire. These artists never topped the charts, but they lit the fuse for everything that came after. So tell me, how many of these were totally new to you? 1, 10, all 30? And if you're already a fan of any of these legends, I want to hear about it. What's your favorite deep cut? Which album changed your life? Drop it in the comments and let's build the ultimate buried treasure playlist together. And hey, if you've got your own hidden gem that deserves to be on a list like this, put me onto it. There's always more greatness waiting to be discovered. Hit that like button if we introduced you to your new favorite band. Subscribe for more deep dives into the music they don't teach in rock history class. And keep digging, because the best stuff is always just below the surface.